When you hear the name George Bush, you think of 9/11, the war against terror and many controversial decisions that were taken in America in the early 21st century. But today, we will not talk about him. Instead, we will talk to his father, who, except the name, shared very little with his son. Today, on his death anniversary, we will look at the presidency and life of George Bush Sr. Hello folks, today on Behind the Date, we will look into what goes behind the making of a president, especially of the caliber of someone like George Bush Sr. To understand that, we will talk about his life, his political moves, and even his failures. An enigmatic character. He surely has an interesting story. Bush was born on June 12, 1924, in Milton, Massachusetts, to Dorothy Walker Bush and Prescott Bush. He was the second of 4 children in the Bush family. Bush was raised in Greenwich, Connecticut, and attended Greenwich Country Day School and Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts. He was an active member of his school's baseball, football, and basketball teams. At the age of 18, Bush enlisted in the U.S. Navy and served as a naval aviator. He flew many combat missions during World War II and was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. After the war, Bush attended Yale University and graduated with a degree in economics. While at Yale, he was a member of the Delta Kappa Epsilon fraternity and captained the baseball team. During this, Bush married Barbara Pierce, and together they had 6 children, including the future President of America, George W. Bush. Bush entered the oil business after graduating from Yale, co-founding Zapata Petroleum Corporation in 1953. This initiative earned him a lot of money and many allies who would later play a crucial role in his presidential campaign. His career in politics began in 1966 when he was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, representing the 7th Congressional District of Texas. He was re-elected to the House in 1968, but he gave up his seat in 1970 to run for the Senate. He would serve under the Ford and Nixon administrations for the next 10 years. In 1980, Bush ran for president, but lost the Republican nomination to Ronald Reagan. After Reagan's election, Bush was selected as his running mate and was sworn in as vice president on January 1981. He served in that role until 1989, when Reagan left office and Bush became the 41st president of the United States. During his presidency, Bush was known for his foreign policy initiatives and strong leadership. He was faced with several significant international and domestic challenges, including the fall of the Berlin Wall, the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Gulf War, and the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. In each of these situations, Bush took decisive action and used his strong diplomatic skills to bring about positive change. He was also a strong believer in the power of international cooperation and diplomacy, and worked to build strong relationships with foreign leaders. He was admired for his commitment to bipartisanship and compromise. During his term in office, Bush worked to bring together both sides of the aisle to find solutions to pressing issues. He was willing to reach across the aisle to work with Democrats in Congress, and was successful in passing several important pieces of legislation, including the Clean Air Act and the Americans with Disabilities Act. While he had a successful presidency, there were some criticisms of his decisions and actions. Bush was criticized for his handling of the economy during his time in office, particularly regarding his budget proposals. Bush proposed a budget that included tax cuts for the wealthy while also raising taxes for the middle class. This decision was controversial as it was seen as furthering the divide between the wealthy and the poor. Critics also argued that the tax cuts would not spur economic growth as they were intended to do. In addition, Bush was also criticized for his lack of focus on job growth and economic development. During his presidency, unemployment rose significantly, and Bush failed to implement any policies that would create jobs or help to stimulate the economy. He was also scrutinized for his handling of the Cold War. He was accused of not doing enough to prevent the dissolution of the Soviet Union and its subsequent collapse. In addition, Bush was also questioned for not doing enough to promote peace in the Middle East, and for not doing enough to stop the spread of terrorism in the region. In large, Bush's presidency was considered positive, with gaps of complacency where nothing much was being done. But in the list of presidents who served the country, he is still ranked in the highest echelon. In the years following his presidency, Bush continued to be involved in public service. He worked closely with his son, former President George W. Bush, on various initiatives, including the Points of Light Foundation, and he was a vocal advocate for the victims of the Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004. He also remained active in the Republican Party and was a major supporter of the presidential campaigns of his son and of Senator John McCain in 2008. In addition to his political activities, Bush also volunteered at hospitals and schools, and he was known for his friendly and humorous personality. He often spoke about the importance of education and was known for his close relationships with those around him. Bush also made frequent public appearances to support various causes. He was a vocal supporter of the American Red Cross and traveled around the country on behalf of the organization. He also remained active in veterans' causes and supported the creation of the National World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. In 2011, Bush was honored with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. The same year, he was named the most popular living president in a Gallup poll. Bush passed away 2018 at the age of 94. He was remembered for his commitment to public service and his dedication to the causes he believed in. His legacy of service and advocacy continues to be remembered, and his life and work will continue to be celebrated for many years to come.